All right. All right. On today's show, I welcome on a very special guest. He is Trevor DiMicco. He's the assistant coach for Exeter West Greenwich boys basketball team. Trevor, how are you today?
Hey, Jeff, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How you holding up during these times?
I'm good. Everything's going well with us, well into 2021. But I did want to say I appreciate you having me on. I love the podcast. I love what you're doing for the state of Rhode Island. It's been cool to hear everyone else's stories. So I hope to inspire someone out there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it. It's always welcomed. And, I'm glad that, like I had mentioned before, when we first spoke on the EWG staff thing, that I think EWG is very lucky to have you and your coaching staff together. You just seem like you guys seem great. And I'm very excited to hear your story and, playing basketball and everything growing up and everything like that. So it should be great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
No problem. So I want to get into it, into your basketball career. When did you start playing basketball and how did you really get into it?
Yeah, so I can't really remember life before basketball. I think I started about 6 years old in rec league in Coventry. I was super fortunate that my parents got me in, drove me to practice, drove me to games. I had two older brothers. We're all about a year apart. So as you can imagine, running around between a lot of different sports. I think I played soccer, baseball, played a year of football. So super fortunate for that, super fortunate for Coventry, and really privileged that they had a rec league that I think gave me so much experience early on.
That's awesome. That's great. And what was it like, growing up with two brothers? Did you guys have a lot of competitions with each other and play basketball against each other a lot?
Yeah, I think everything was a competition. I feel like you're fighting for the driver's seat every single time.
Yep.
You're just every single day you're fighting over something. But something that we had, which has changed a lot in my eyes, was we used to ride our bikes around our neighborhood in Coventry all the time, and you play pick up tackle football with kids who are bigger than you, and I wouldn't say I'm as tough as my brothers, but I was the youngest, so I definitely got beat up quite a few times. But it's always nice to know people have your back, and love those schoolyard days back in the day when we could just be out in the neighborhood with the rest of the kids. So
those were the days. Those were a lot of fun. I remember those days. Remember just going around to different school, like elementary schools or the backyards, and playing basketball with other kids, or taking a group of friends to go somewhere else. Those were the fun days.
Yep, you fall and bust your knee or something, you get home, your parents don't really care. They're like, go wipe it off. And,
Yeah.
it seems like such a long time ago, but those little lessons you never forget.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. It toughens you up in the end of the day. But
it does.
was there a player, like when you were playing basketball or even any sport, was there a guy that really you idolized growing up and wanted to be like?
I feel like every team I played on in the beginning of my career, I was always number 23. I just think it wasn't even, like an MJ thing. It was just, I want to be the best player on the team. I really think that's what it was. Like, I want people to know that I'm the guy.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was always number 23, but I idolize teams. I think still to this day, I idolize teams and coaches more than I idolize players. I do think, like, I look at that New Jersey Nets team with like a Jason Kidd, a Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, what the Detroit Pistons, like Ben Wallace, big tough, like Chauncey Billups, like played great defense. The Spurs, like I just love team basketball the way that it was played growing up. And, that's always the way that I tried to play basketball was, I'm going to do what I have to do for my team. If I, have to go out and score 20 points, I will. If I can score two and we win, that's all I care about. And to this day, that's still all I care about.
That's awesome. I think that's a great mentality too. And I think those are all those teams that you had said, like, those brought back some serious memories, right? Right there.
Yeah,
The Ben Wallaces, the Richard Hamiltons, the Chauncey, the Detroit Pistons team was so tough
and it's
defensively.
funny now. Yeah, now we see these guys coaching, like a Steve Nash coaching. You see Jason Kidd, and you just remember like what team guys those were, like what leaders they were, and not that they were I don't think they were the top scorers on their team, but just like how hard they played every night and how they had their teammates back and how they just had to do what they did to win.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's funny. I think actually Billups and Duncan are coaching as well too. Like it's
Are
like,
they?
Yeah, I think Duncan might be like on the Spurs staff or helping out in some sort of way. And I think Billups he went with someone. I don't know if it was a college or something, but he went with someone. But those guys were all like you said, they're all team guys, and it's crazy how like it translates to on the court or coaching wise.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if those types of guys are coaching, you know.
Yeah,
So, and I still think to this day, I love, you know, LeBron gets a lot of hate. I don't get into the conversation who's the best player of all time, but to not appreciate like what that guy has done and where he's come from, to think he came straight from high school and you've never heard any issues with him off the court. He's never been in trouble. He's never done any scandals. Um, you know, just to see him creating a school, the things that he's done on and off the court it's amazing. And he's used his platform to make the world a better place. And, you know, I think his kids have given him that view on life. And, you know, it's just great to see honestly what that guy's done on and off the court for kids everywhere.
yeah, it's true. And I think he's a great, and for all the kids that I've had on here, they all love LeBron. So I think he's a great role model for those kids and, for everyone that watches. He's a great player. I don't think it's one of those generational players that I don't think we'll ever see. And like you said, what he does off the court is amazing, and putting kids through college and pays their tuition. I don't know how much money he paid this year, but it's crazy. He does great things for the community and gives back.
100%. He married his high school sweet. I mean, you have to respect him. He's honestly been a true role model for a lot of kids out there, you know,
Yeah,
for all the right reasons.
it's good. It's definitely a good thing that, he's out there and doing those great things and keeping it that way. And it's good for all the kids that are paying attention to him. So
100%.
yeah. So you wore the 23. Did you wear that when you played in high school at Coventry?
No, I actually, when I got to high school, I ended up being, I think number 5, ended up being my jersey. But, you know, numbers when you're young, it always seemed important. And it's just something that throughout my career, my number always changed. And even myself as a player, I just changed over the years. I remember when I was young playing rec league, playing all-stars, the best time of my life, playing all-stars with the same guys every single year. You know, traveling around the state, people that I still see everywhere today. You know, I just think we just worked so hard, and it didn't matter what the number was. But you just try to do the best you can, no matter what you're out there to do.
Yeah. And what was it like, you played at Coventry High School and you guys make it to state, got to the state semis 2 years in a row, but what was your time playing at Coventry High School? And those guys that you had mentioned that you played at All-Star, did you all guys play in high school together? And like, what was it like growing up playing with them?
Yeah, so I do have to, you know, being on here, a lot of people don't know this. So I started out, you know, by the time you get to middle school, that's the first school team you're playing on, right? My 7th grade year, we had a great team. I started as point guard, and then we had all 8th graders, really. We got into my 8th grade year, and I actually got kicked off the team after our first 2 games.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a huge eye opener for me. And, you know, I think a lot of life lessons, you know, they end up making us who we are. So I do want to share that we can make mistakes in life and make the wrong decisions, which is what I did. I actually got kicked off the team for hazing a good friend of mine now, Nate Stitchell. He was a 6th grader, and there was another kid, Andrew Gerbins. And it was, you know, I'll never forget it. There was a few of us. In the same day, we got called to the office after our first 2 games. Our 3rd game was that day, and we got kicked off the team. And, you know, it's funny, in 2020, a lot of things were taken from people, right? Basketball wasn't happening, sports weren't happening. And I learned early on in life that challenges were going to happen, but it's how you come back from them. And so from that time on, you know, I became a freshman at Coventry. My brother was a senior. I remember getting on the bus, and the seniors are, come to the back of the bus, time to get hazed. You know, that was the culture. Like, it was always, you hear about that. And when you watch things in the NBA, you know, the same stuff was happening, but it's not to say that it was right, you know?
yeah.
So I got to Coventry my freshman year. I ended up swinging. My brother was a senior. You know, all of his buddies, a couple kids quit throughout the year. The culture of the team was just, we were having issues, right? Like there was just challenges. So we were in Division I that year. I think we won a couple games. So my sophomore year, I ended up starting at point guard my entire season. We made the playoffs for the first time in like 10 years, I think it was. But again, we had dropped down to Division II from Division I. We lost to East Greenwich in the first round of the playoffs, but I think that year was a huge eye opener for us and what we could accomplish, and, you know, really how we were trying to change the team culture moving forward. So our junior year, I don't even think anyone knew we were going to be as good as we were. So again, I started that year. Brandon DePaulo, who you had on the show, also started. We had a couple of seniors, but another lesson that I really learned that year is I got voted by my teammates to be a captain on the team as a junior. We had a couple seniors, you know, that you kind of have to manage. And early on in life, I felt like this was when, you know, I realized that I was a leader because I was voted a captain, but I chose not to be a captain because I felt like it could mess with the culture of our team. And, you know, always in life, still to this day, I feel like you can be a leader without having that title, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care, even to this day, I don't care about being called coach. I don't care about in my job being called a manager. I don't want to be called a manager or a boss. You know, I want to be a leader. And so I learned early on that titles don't matter. You can lead by example every day. And I love the fact that my team believed in me and that much to vote me to be a captain that year, but I didn't have to be a captain. I did what I had to do to, you know, help the team win. I think we went on a long win streak that year. I want to say like 12 games or something. We went into Feinstein, who had won the Division III championship, the Division II championship, with good guys like Alberto Bueno and Jarrell Gomes that were really good. And we went in, I think Jarrell wasn't playing, but we went into Feinstein and won a game. I think the first time Feinstein has lost in years, and they still had a good team without Jarrell, you know?
Yeah.
But that gave us a lot of confidence. We continued our win streak, made a run to the playoffs. We beat West Warwick, our rivals that year, twice. Great team. Terrell Sheldon, Bruce Sobers, Ryan Coburn, who I played with at Springfield. They had a great team. Rich Lazat, Kyle Vinton. So yeah, I would just say we won our first round of the playoffs, went to the second round. We saw West Warwick beat Feinstein in the playoffs that year, actually. So the first time Feinstein knew they weren't winning a state championship in, 3 years. So we go and play West Warwick, our crosstown rivals. CCRI was the most packed I've still to this day ever seen a game. There was probably over 2,000 people there.
Wow.
You got Coventry, West Warwick, and that's in Warwick. It's right outside of West Warwick. So that game was a game I'll never forget. We went down 20 early and we were down 20 the entire game. We got our ass handed to us. Like, just our crosstown rivals beat us in front of that many people to go to the state championship, where they lost to, I think it was Classical that year.
Yeah.
But it's truly something like I'll never forget. And, that's when I realized that I hate to lose more than I love to win. Like, and I've carried that with me my whole life. Like, I hate to lose, right? Like, There's a lot of people out there who love to win, but I truly just, to this day, I still play basketball, competing. I hate to lose more than I love to win. And I'll always feel that. So, I mean, I guess that was a long-winded, run for my junior year, but my senior year, I remember we're going to be good. Like, and I do want to say our travel team, we had won tournaments in All-Stars, like back in Rec League for years. We had a great team, but the issue in some of these towns, which you'll see all over the state, is we had Ethan Hattoy, our best point guard. He's starting on LaSalle. He left us, a good friend. Ben Drapko, he went to Moses Brown, won a couple state championships there. So we lost two of our top 10, top 5 players of our class went to other schools. And so you just make do with it. But our senior year, we came in prepared. I remember working out all summer. You'd find me at Payne Field out on the court late at night. I'd be out there in between summer leagues. And after years of being a freshman and being the smallest one out there with my brother and his friends and not getting picked up to, you're running the courts your senior year, and all that work that you've put in over the last few years, you finally start to see paying off. So we really had high hopes our senior year. I think we won our summer league down in Narragansett. Huge momentum. We just felt great, we went in. I think we might have lost to your Bulldogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we lost to them maybe our first game, or we lost to Narragansett.
Yeah.
Narragansett had Jay Janot, who ended up being like the Gatorade Player of the Year that year. Tyler Hoxie, Brendan Kenny, great kids that I'm still good friends with today. So it's funny. I still hear about it. But so we ran through the year. We had some ups and downs. We lost some games we shouldn't have. We went to the state semis again, and I'll never forget, we were up 11 at halftime. Game plan, unlike West Warwick the year before, was working. I remember coming out of halftime, I got the worst dead leg of my life. Brendan Kenny, I remember driving to the hoop on a fast break. I cut in front of him, caught a dead leg to the thigh, and I was just hurting. And they came back, beat us, and I lost 2 straight years in the Division II semifinals. And believe me, I've never forgotten it. That was the best time of my life playing sports, playing high school basketball. And after my freshman year, I considered, I was talking to my parents about maybe transferring to LaSalle. But, I don't think I would have played as much. I don't think I would have had as much of an influence on a school. Our fans were great. Like, some of our friends just, put such an effort in. Brandon Sweeney, put such an effort into our senior year and making sure we had the best fans. It was always crazy. But yeah, and there's a lot of people, you just look back that invested so much time into you during those years. My phys ed teacher, Steve McKenna, he's from Narragansett, and he worked me out junior and senior year, traveled up from Narragansett, got there at 6 a.m. to Coventry, worked me out for 2 straight years in the gym. Weightlifting, like just things that teachers don't have to do, that, no one has to do. I've never paid him anything.
Yeah.
He expected nothing in return, but that guy, I was throwing up in the morning before school. Like, I would run back home, shower after I worked out, go back to school. Like, my body's hurting,
Yeah.
And you just look around and you're like, I don't know, you just realize at some point, like, damn, I got a different motor, like I don't know. You're just like, I'm different. I'm getting up. Like, I'm trying to make a difference. I'm trying to win a state championship. I'm trying to, give back with the town of Coventry and all these people that have invested in me over the years, and the money my parents spent putting me in AAU, and to look back, I'm so appreciative and so fortunate to have had basketball during that time, and again, who's to say, I've made a lot of mistakes. Like I was saying, in middle school, I probably always haven't treated people how I should have treated them, but I hope that when I come across them in the future, or, I always hope people can look back and that I have truly like a good legacy around Coventry,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it sounds like you worked your butt off. That it's, you guys went pretty far, and you playing in Coventry, making it to 2 state semis 2 years in a row, and you worked really hard to get to where you want to be. And then after, like, the whole season's done and over with, how did you decide to go to Springfield, and what was your decision to walk on over there?
Man, it seems crazy to think back. It's funny. I was talking to someone else about this recently, right? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't apply to many schools. I applied to I think URI in state, it was the cheapest school to go to. I went and visited Springfield. I met the coach while I was there, toured the school, but like, I didn't really get recruited. I think I maybe applied to Endicott because I knew they were Division III, but I knew I had unfinished business, right? I was like, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, so I got to keep playing. So I get to Springfield, and it's funny. You show up to orientation, we're standing there with the team. Hey, what freshmen are trying out? You're standing there with 15 kids, and half of them are telling you, oh, I got recruited. I sent in my mixtape to the coach, and, I'm going to be on the team. when you get to tryouts, you realize in Division 3, everyone there, just like anything else, you're competing with everyone else. But being recruited to Division 3, you can't get, you can't get a scholarship. So
Yeah.
everyone's showing up there, and even though the coach knows who you are, it doesn't mean that you're on the team. So I
Yeah. Yeah.
think our team, I want to say, had maybe 3 spots on the varsity team. And we had like a JV team that played like, I don't know, maybe 6 games in the season. But you realize that you got to show up and compete because there's only 3 spots on the team. There's no scholarships. They don't owe you anything. You can say
Yeah.
you got recruited, but you got to come out and earn it,
Yeah.
So, so what I did was I did what I always did. I just worked my ass off. Like I just always considered myself, like, I kept working that whole summer. I do got to talk about too, like, from that senior year of going into college, my senior year of high school going into college, I started working at Harborside in East Greenwich. I started out as a busboy there, like making whatever money I could because I wanted to go to school and I wanted to play basketball and knew I wouldn't be able to work during the season. So I was super fortunate and privileged to be able to go to school, not have to work, play basketball, still do what I love to do, But
Yeah.
I knew that in the summer I had to make as much money as possible to support myself and what I wanted to do throughout the school year. So, that teaches you a lot. And I think I say it to people all the time. It might sound crazy. I think everyone in the world should have to work in a restaurant for a year of their life.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, you learn how to appreciate people. You learn how to tip. You understand multitasking. You understand teamwork, like having each other's back. Like, you understand that, yeah, you're working an 8-hour shift, but if it's busy, you might have to stay a couple extra hours and help out.
Yeah.
Like, to me, and just how you treat people, right? Like, when I go into a restaurant now, I never forget what's going on in that kitchen, or, that server has 4 or 5 other tables, maybe, if it's busy. Like, you don't know what's going on in the kitchen. It might not be the server's fault. Like, it could be the bartender or the cook's fault, but you think the server is the face of that business. And so you're going to get upset with that person, right?
Yeah.
So I do think, like, a restaurant, like, just my perspective of it, I ended up working at Harborside for 5 years. Like, in the summer when I came home from school, I met people who I'm super close with and have just, taught me so much in life that, I have to talk about that experience because I do think that it helped me in my basketball career, and still to this point in my life, like, has gotten me to where I am. So anyway, long-winded, but we'll go back to the college basketball.
I think it's all important how it all ties in, and I know all about the restaurant business. That was like my first job as a sophomore in like high school, and I was like, what did I get myself into? But
where'd you work?
I worked down at the beach at like the Seafood Haven. I was like a runner.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was like, it was just like, it got busy. And like you said, you might be working like a 6-hour, 8-hour shift, and then you turn out to be like a 10-hour day or 12-hour day. You just can't help it. It's just,
Yeah. And you just, like, yeah, like, I think about like a Patty's down there. That's what Harborside was like. Like,
yeah.
I ended up, and I also learned how to maneuver my way, right? Like, I made connections. That first year I was a busboy. The second summer I came back, I was a server. I came back and served again. So you learn how to work your way up the ladder. My 4th year there, I'm bartending. My 5th year, I'm bartending. So my friends are coming in on Thursday night, partying, whatever. It's packed. And I'm the one behind the bar working. I came in at, 10 p.m. and I'm working till 2 a.m. cleaning up after everybody, serving drinks. Like, and then I'm coming back and working all summer. I would come back and work Thursday, Friday doubles. I would spend 12-hour days, 14-hour days at Harborside working there, just grinding. Like, and my friends are out, and yeah, it sucked missing the weekends. Like, it sucks in college. Like, oh, I don't get to go out and party Thursday night in the summer with my friends, Friday, Saturday, but that's sacrifice. Like, that's, to me, like, that's still the difference in my life is, I got to see all my friends. They came to where I was working, but on the other side of it, like, I was working, I was making money, I was grinding, like, I was doing what I had to do,
Yeah. You got to make those sacrifices early, because later down in life, you can do all that stuff down the line.
Yeah.
You just don't need to worry
it's
about
true.
it.
Like, I think it's hard when you're young to, like, you're in that tunnel vision. Like, seeing, and believe me, like I looked at it like, hey, I get the whole school year to party. Like I'm away. I didn't have to work freshman year. Um, but anyway, so to go back to my freshman year, so I walk onto the team, right? There was a 4-year starting senior ahead of me, 1,000-point scorer. And I'll tell you, every single day at practice, I got my ass kicked. Like every single day. Like I would go in, I'd have bloody noses, like, because the bench players in basketball, people don't understand when you're watching these college teams and high school teams, the bench players are the ones competing against the starters in practice. Like
Yeah.
if the bench players aren't playing hard and pushing people to their limits, then your starting team isn't going to be that tough. They're not going to face that adversity. Like, and that's why I always talk about, I said it on our podcast the other day, like life to me, a lot of things are a competition. And I understand a lot of people don't want to look at it that way, but I compete for jobs with people now. I competed for those spots when I was at Springfield. Like I was competing with a guy who had been there. And so the only way to make people around us better truly is by pushing people to their limits. And a lot of people don't know their limits, right? Like, so that's the only way to get people out of their comfort zone is when you raise your standard and you work hard, you're forcing other people around them to have to raise their standard and work harder.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is,
And I think you made a good point about the bench player, about the bench, like going against the starters. I actually think there was a kid on Rutgers who recently just came out and said, like, don't like, it's not all of us for the success. Thank the guys that are sitting there because they make us better every day. And that's what I think he gave them a lot of credit. Like, it was really cool to like actually hear a player say, like, it's just not us starting five. It's those guys that like are sitting there that don't play that like actually compete against us every day in practice and push us to be better every day.
Yeah, and I get it. Like people put that work in practice and everyone expects playing time, right? But like as you get to higher levels, like yes, rec league, everyone's guaranteed time. But as you start working your way up to that high school varsity level, to college, to playing overseas, to playing, the best players a lot of times end up falling down because the standards become different, like that's life. Once you get to a certain standard, like things change. Like you're not going to be the best, but you can always, your effort is always what really decides your fate and your outcome.
Yeah, it's right.
So, but yeah. So then I guess my freshman year, I think we had a 500 year, pretty good. And what was pretty cool actually. So my sophomore year, I go in again. I'm not guaranteed a spot. I ended up starting my whole sophomore year at Springfield. I think I averaged maybe 3 points, 3 rebounds a game. You'll never hear me really talk about individual accolades. That's just in high school, I got accolades. But at the end of my sophomore year, I got the Hustle Player of the Year on my team. And it truly meant so much to me because the whole reason I started, like I said, I was 3 points, 3 rebounds, but I worked harder than everybody. And I wasn't the most skilled. My game had changed over the years. When I was young, I was a 3-point shooter. That's what people knew me as, right?
Yeah.
And then as I moved on in high school, I think I averaged maybe 12 points a game. Like I started 3 years, I didn't score 1,000 points. I never cared about points. Like I never will. I cared about winning. That's it.
Yeah.
And so when I was at Springfield, it was pretty cool because you had Ryan Coburn, who was a year older than me at West Warwick, who I lost to by 20.
Yeah.
He was our starting our starting center, all-time leading blocker at Springfield, which was pretty cool. My sophomore year, we had Matt Cavalieri, who graduated in 2007 from West Warwick.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was our 4, started at the 4.
Yeah.
Ended up being a 1,000-point scorer. I'll tell him all the time. I think he was a better college player than he was in high school. But, and then also our buddy Pat Sturtle from Exeter, West Greenwich, graduated in 2008. Great player, played at CCRI. He transferred to Springfield and ended up playing on the team with us. So it was really cool. You had 4 of us from Rhode Island, 3 of us starting on the team. And it was just a great experience. And, a lot of the guys I played basketball with, these guys are still, my best friends. I truly think that when you compete with people or against people, your relationships with them become stronger, like Pat Sturtle and I, we competed in high school. Like we still talk about it. He's like, oh, I gave you 40 in this game, and So we do a little back and forth, but yeah, so I think my sophomore year we probably went 15-11, I think was our record. So both my freshman and sophomore year we lost in the semifinals of our conference.
Oh, wow.
One year was to MIT, one year is to WPI, so both great teams. But I mean, to talk about like the experience, I don't know if you've heard of the Hoop Hall Classic. Normally they do it in Springfield. So since Springfield's the birthplace of basketball, that's where they host it. So we got to work the scorers table for all those games. Like you're seeing like Austin Rivers, Andre Drummond, like all these big time kids, right? That played there. Kyrie Irving and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist were on the same team. Like, so we got to work those events, which was awesome. And being around that, and Victor Oladipo winning the dunk contest back then, and now you see what he's doing now. Like, it was such a cool experience, and I'm so grateful and fortunate. Even going into my sophomore year, we got to work with the I think it was a 16 youth USA team. They were doing a 3-on-3 tournament in Singapore.
Yeah.
So they actually brought them to Springfield in the summer to train and work out, and we got to go and compete against them, which was cool.
That's really cool.
And so we went even like a night they shut down the Hall of Fame, and we got to like go and practice there. And you know, Nike was sponsoring, so they gave us like shoes and all this other stuff. So man, such a great experience being there, being at the birthplace of basketball. It was no, I'm truly grateful. Like I really am.
Yeah, those are some cool experiences that people can't say that they ever have had, and you know, it's awesome that you were able to experience that, meet those players that now play in the NBA, and like work those, and that's absolutely wild too. And that's cool that you got to do the 3-on-3 stuff. That man, so that you sounds like you had a lot of fun, like, you know, great career playing at Springfield, and like you said, you didn't have to average points as long as you guys were winning and doing well. That was the most important. When did you end up transferring out of Springfield and going to URI?
So, yeah, I mean, I guess the real question is why, right?
Yeah.
So I left Springfield after my sophomore year, which was one of the toughest decisions that I think I almost became a man at that point, right? Like I had to make a decision to leave a school that I loved playing basketball and giving that up, because I felt like, you know, I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I played at the next level. I proved that I could start. I just really felt like I did what I had to do, you know, and what I wanted to do. And, money became an issue. It's a small private school. I got some financial aid. But my mom and her girlfriend broke up. I want to say it was around probably middle of my sophomore year, and her girlfriend was helping paying for my school. And so I started like seeing payments come through, and I'm like, yo, this is delayed. Like, you know, I have always like kept an eye on that stuff. So really, you know, finances was the main reason that I left Springfield, and no one told me I had to leave. Like still to this day, no one ever said like you had to leave, but it was a decision that I knew I had to make. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I felt like someone could fill my role on the team and they could maybe do better, you know, but I had to get home and work year round, and I needed to focus on what I was going to do after college and my career as a professional. So that was a big thing. But, you know, when I transferred to URI, I was super fortunate again, where one of the owners of Harborside had a connection down at Muse Tavern in Wakefield.
Yeah.
So she got me a job down there. So during the school year, I was working 20 hours a week. Into the season bartending, and I was able to do like holiday parties, and the owners there took like super good care of me, and were always like really looking out for me. So Springfield was a great experience in my life, and I'm very fortunate to everybody who got me there, and everybody that, you know, financially just invested in me. And I'm grateful to my parents, super. And one of the big things like in life that I always tell people is, you know, we need to change our environment, right? Like I'm a first generation graduate. Melissa and I, my wife and I both are,
Yeah.
we're super proud of that. So I had two older brothers. I'm the first one to graduate. My parents didn't go to college, and Melissa and I talk a lot about that. But I also think, like, I want to mention on this podcast that we need to watch with the young generation. Like, it's become so accustomed that we ask kids, "Oh, where are you going to college next year? What are your plans for college?" Like, college isn't for everybody, and
Yeah.
there's
No.
nothing wrong with that,
No.
right? Like, everyone has their own path, but we mess with kids, I think, when we ask them that. And it's unfortunate because we put kids in a really tough place, and school's super expensive. And I'm not going to sit here and say like college was the best experience of my life, right? But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I got the job I have because of the classes I took. And, my financials are in a certain place because of what I learned in school when I graduated in finance. Like, college is about the experience. When I
Yeah.
went to Springfield, it's like, how do you find food? How do you find how to get around? Like, you're not babied. You're doing your own laundry. You're like, there's so many things. Like, the experience of college is growing up. It's that transition. In my eyes, it was that transition from high school to the professional world, right? But
Yeah.
that's not for everybody. Like,
Yeah. No, it's not.
people, like, I didn't love school growing up. I got good grades, but it's because I worked hard. And you know my parents told me, like, you better do your work and you better do good. But I've been so independent my whole life. I didn't need anyone ever looking over my shoulder. Like, I've been in a place where, like, I know what I need to do. I just need to go and make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, I think that thing, I think you make up a good point with college. I think the thing that we also do, I don't think we also prepare our kids in a certain way for college, and anyway for like what they're going to be paying, taking out loans. I don't think they really understand the process of loans, and if we have like a variable loan or a fixed loan and all that stuff. I think that kind of is tough too, because if a kid takes out a loan from a private bank, they have a variable and their rate changes. They don't know what they're getting themselves into and stuff like that. And I think that's also difficult. And I think you make a good point too. We don't have to force our kids to go to college. Like, that's the same thing. I went because everyone told me I had to go. I don't know if I
Yeah.
would ever have gone. I mean, I graduated. I got same thing. I'm in finance as well too on the outside of this, and it wasn't for me, but I still pushed myself and did good grades because I didn't want to. I wanted to get out of there and start a living. But the same thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's awesome. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, how are you supposed to know at that age what you want to do? But
it's such
I
a
just looked at it like so logical, where like I'm going to be dealing with my own finances throughout life. So why not go to school for finance? But I can't tell you, like, they don't teach you how to do a lot of things, even though people say to me all the time, "Oh, you went to school for finance, so you understand stocks and financial." Like, no, that's not true. Like, anyone can teach themselves that. Anybody,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know? And a lot of people need a mentor. Like, I've been fortunate enough, my cousin Chris, like, I've had great mentors in life, right? But I'm not going to say my parents have taught me about financials. They, like, they've looked at things completely different than how I do today. And I've made the sacrifices to make that change, and we all have that. We all have it in us.
yeah. It's true. It's very, very true. It's just how you approach it, and if you have the motivation to make those changes and approach it, that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, like, URI was just like the grind in my life. Like, it was just like just years of grinding, like staying in the library, studying, like, just, I just get in my own world. When I was working at Muse Tavern, I remember I went to the casino with some friends, Mohegan, right?
Yeah,
I was probably in my senior year. I had to go to Muse Tavern to like clean up the net. They shut down for like a week. They cleaned the whole place. Man, I was supposed to stay at the casino. I get back to the room. There was like a fight in the room. Like, other people were there. There was a scuffle, whatever. So we get kicked out. So I go back downstairs. I hang out for a little bit, just figure out what I'm going to do. I'm like, all right, I wait a couple hours. I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive to Muse. I'll just go sleep in my car in the parking lot. Right.
yeah.
I'm on my way home. It's probably like, I don't even know, like 5 in the morning, like 4 in the morning. And I'm right near URI, right near the Ryan Center. I told my car, like, on the way to Muse to clean. And
Wow.
like, and something like that, like, people need to know that, like, mistakes happen. Like, I'm super fortunate. Nothing happened to me, right? Like nothing happened to anybody else, which was the most important thing, probably above all else.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like I showed up at Harborside that day. I didn't show up to Muse, right? Because I didn't have a car. My dad came down, grabbed me, we drove back. But I think I went home and napped for like an hour. And then I had to be at Harborside to work. And my manager, I got there, he's like, "Are you sure you're okay to work?" And I'm like, "I need to buy a new car. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
one's like,
Yeah,
who's gonna pay for that?" I'm
yeah,
like, "I'm here, like I'm ready to work, you
yeah.
know?" So that's just like always how I don't know, it's always how I looked at things. But yeah. And I remember like spring break and stuff. Like I was super fortunate my sophomore year. My Springfield friends and I got in a van, drove down on spring break,
Yeah.
like best experience of my life. Like senior year, my best friend's mom, like his family has been like instrumental in my life. Like she had points from her credit card where like helped me get a flight. Like I took out a credit card to pay to go on spring break because I'm like, I don't have the money now, but and this is probably isn't good teaching for all the kids out there, but
It's a good lesson.
um no, like I'm like, yo, at Harborside, I'm gonna make this money. Like
Yeah.
this summer, like in 3 months, I'm gonna make this money at Harborside. So I'm like, I get a no interest credit card. I'm gonna go put my trip on there and I'm gonna go enjoy spring break because I'm never getting this back.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So and it worked out. It worked out. I mean, I thought it through, but I wouldn't recommend that to a lot of people, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes the people forget about their credit cards or don't pay them or anything
but you
like
just learn like leverage, right? Like I was able to leverage that to get an experience that I'll never get again in life. And was it the best decision? Probably not, but it didn't negatively affect me because I did think it through, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. You're smart about it.
So yeah,
So
man.
yes, I know it's crazy. This is good. This is really good. And then what was your time at like what was your life like after college, like for you after college, after URI and everything?
And that grind continued. So again, I'll never forget, like when I got to URI, I'm like, I need to get into the business program. When I first got there, they were like, you're not going to be able to get into the business program. And I'm like, why? They're like, you didn't take this class and this class. So I already did 2 years, right, at Springfield. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to do that. They're like, well, you need like, I forget, like a certain grade point average between the two. I had to take like pre-calc and marketing and get certain grades or whatever. So I'm like, crap, what am I going to do? I can't get into business. This is what I wanted to do here. So I ended up again, like grinding it out, face some adversity, ended up getting what I had to do, get into the finance program. And like ultimately, again, that set me up for, I got a job offer from that financial group that I said I interned with. So they were like, hey, you can come with, financial planning, you can do that. But then I got an offer from ADP, the payroll company and small business sales.
Yep.
And, my cousin's in sales and whatever. And I was like, I'm going to take this leap, and the financial planners were like, yo, you should, if you can build up a portfolio now. And I had to do an extra semester at Springfield. So, I mean, at URI. So I did 4.5 years. So ADP is like, when can you start? And I'm like, I'll start. I think it was the week of New Year's because I just got done with school.
Yeah.
So they gave me an internship. I'm like, crap, now I'm getting out of college. I'm making $14 an hour as an intern, like,
Yeah.
and I have a college degree,
Yeah, yeah.
But so I had to prove for, I think it was 10 weeks, 3 months maybe of just like phone calls, like getting hung up on every day, making calls every day, knocking on doors, like just the grind, man. And, it truly, like I ended up getting a job there. I worked there for 3.5 years. I ended up getting into like our leadership development program, and I trained people who are still there and are doing better than I was doing when I was there. And I'm super grateful for that. Like, I hope that I had some impact on them to like do as well as they're doing and to change their lifestyle and change what they have. But during that time, like I lived in a 680 square foot apartment paying like $600 a month in West Warwick. I lived like super within my means. And I think during my 20s, I'll tell anybody, I spent my 20s investing in myself, which is to me most important, right? Like we can't pour from an empty glass. If we're trying to help others, we ultimately need to make sure that we're okay before we can do that. And I spent those years just investing in my relationships, which I think is super important. Like friends, like family, like my friends are the world to me, like still to this day. And I spent a lot of time in those years just like going out, partying with my buddies. You're finally making money. Like, um, and yeah, I'm super grateful for that. So ADP was my experience out of college. And I ended up ultimately getting a job with my company BD now, Beck and Dickinson.
Mhm.
I got turned down by, it's medical device sales. I got turned down by I think seven companies when I was interviewing.
Wow.
Um, I made it to the final interview process of the first company, Boston Scientific, I was interviewing with, and the manager who I met with was like, "You're too green," which means like ultimately you don't have enough experience,
Oh,
you
okay.
know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I kept hearing that from people. Like I'm 26, interviewing for jobs that like you don't find many people at that age in that job, and I only had 3.5, 4 years of work experience, you know.
Yeah.
So I finally, my boss who lives in Pennsylvania took a chance on me, and I'm super grateful. We got Team of the Year this year, which is something he's been chasing when he's been here for like 10 years. But just in and out of hospitals, running around, like getting things in there that my family's using, and just is affecting a lot of people. So I've been fortunate to be in sales now for 7 years, and really kind of created my own path. And there's been a lot of no's, a lot of challenges, but man, it's made me who I am. I'm super grateful.
That's awesome. Yeah, everything happens for a reason, and always work. I feel like life has a way of working itself out in some
Yeah.
sort of way, and always sometimes leads to a better opportunity. And it sounds like everything worked out for you. I mean, after
Yeah.
you got turned down from like 6, 7 jobs, it sounds like you're with a great company now, and things are working out great for you over there.
Yeah. I mean, people like, right. Like when we face challenges, I feel like a lot of people get discouraged, which is common. Like
Yeah,
it
part
happens,
of
but
life.
like every no in my, like in the sales world, every no leads you closer to a yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So that is the way I look at things. Like this, I wasn't the right fit for this position. Like they didn't think I was the right fit, but I can tell you when I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish at this company, I reached back to all my old managers, some old coaches, like thank them, because I know I wouldn't be here. And I reached out to even managers that turned me down for that interviewed me for that role. And I
yeah,
was like, hey, I made it to what I wanted to do. You missed out.
yeah, yeah.
Like I understand that I wasn't the right fit for that role, but I took it personal. It goes back to what I was saying before about I hate to lose, man. Like
Yeah, yeah,
winning feels great, but winning wouldn't feel great without losing.
yeah,
Like if
sure.
you don't know what losing's like, then winning wouldn't feel as good. It's like, so
That's awesome. And how did you get into coaching at EWG? Like how that like opportunity come up arise for you?
yeah, so Dave Delfino, like we had competed against each other in the past. We were friends. We knew a lot of the same people. He's a great kid. He got the head coaching job and randomly called me and asked me. But on top of that, like I got to give props to my wife, Melissa, man. To me, in my eyes, she's the best coach in Rhode Island. Like any sport, um, man, it's crazy. Like just to think of, like, it blows my mind to think about, like, she coached two of the D1 top programs like in the state, like URI, a head coach, like Providence College, head coach, like Division 1, like cheerleading coach. Like, dude, that's amazing. That's mind blowing to think about. Like,
Yeah.
so
And
she's definitely inspired me. And, one time I said to her, like, oh, like cheerleading, like, you coach cheerleading, like I'm coaching. And she's like, it's not about the sport. Like it's about like what we're teaching people and like the life lessons that these kids learn. And to see the relationships that she has with kids that she coached at URI and kids that she's made miss games because they were late to something, like, or kids that got kicked off the team. Like she's had to deal with it, but people respect her because they know at the end of the day, she made tough decisions and that's what it's about. But at the end of the day, she's made kids better. Like she's made the world a better place. And she's a teacher in Fall River, phys ed teacher.
yeah,
And, she works in a tough area, but like, her passion, like her passion's like unmeasured. And that's what really got me into it. Like seeing her passion for coaching and the differences she made is what truly got me to this point. My 20s were truly selfish. Like they were about me making my world better. Like to ultimately give back at this point, right? Like
Yeah.
my 30s and the rest of my life are to give back. Like, and I'm not looking to get paid and doing it. I'm not like, I'm just looking to make a difference. Like, and that's ultimately what I want out of life moving forward.
That's awesome. That's great. And I think that's such a great mentality. And I know from our interview with you and Coach Delfino and the rest of the staff was awesome. It just sounds like, you guys have just a great staff all overall together over there. And also shout out to your wife, because she was also on the podcast, and she was just a great interview. And you could tell the passion when you spoke to her about how much you cared about the kids and everything that she did. It was awesome just speaking with her and like the experiences that she went through. And you could definitely tell that like PC's in like great hands with everything that she's done and everything she did at URI. It's unfortunate it didn't work out there, but good. I'm happy that she's in a better place at PC.
Oh, believe me, she hears about it all the time. Like, you left the Rhody Rams to go over to the Providence Friars, and
Yeah.
you graduated and cheered at URI.
Yeah.
Man, that's messed up. You get a lot of heat for that.
Yeah, but
So.
she explains why too. She explained why, and it made sense. And I'm glad that she did what she did. So she had to do it.
Yeah. I gotta throw some challenger a little bit, but
Yeah.
also there has been other people like Brandon DePaulo, who I played with at Coventry. Like, there was 3 of us that got recruited to actually go play at Elmira College, where Brandon ended up playing in college. I don't know if you talked about it.
Yeah.
So we all got recruited to go play up there, but I didn't end up going. But Brandon's always been a good friend of mine. Like, we've been playing, like I said, rec league since we were 9 years old. Like, he's made me better. Like, he's pushed me to be better. Like he had early on in my life. And I'm grateful for it. But he's one of the reasons I wanted to get into coaching. It's funny, even though I'm assistant coach, I don't even know if I said this to Brandon. I got my first high school coaching basketball win against Brandon at Coventry in the Coventry Winter Tournament last year.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to live with that. He's going to have to live. But it was cool, man. It was cool to be back in the gym. Like, we're on different benches, coaching against each other. It's all love. Like, to have other teachers there coming to watch the game and know us, like, to be there, it was humbling. It was a great experience.
Yeah, Brandon's a hell of a coach too. He's doing a great job over at North Smithfield and like everything over there. I'm just like, what I'm learning too is I think all the coaches too in Rhode Island, and I had said this in another podcast, that it's a close knit community, and I think it's something to do with Rhode Island being such a small state that it seems like all the coaches get along, and there's like exchange information once they get to know each other and stuff. It's been really cool to experience that and have those conversations with doing the roundtables and stuff like that and speaking with other coaches. I'm like, I never would have even known. Like, I didn't even experience that in Connecticut as well, like as much. Like maybe Stone and like we would exchange different coaches would talk, but other than that, it's just like you don't get that in other places. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to that point, like after college, like I wanted to get in with a big company like ADP and maybe move and travel, but it worked out where I just ended up staying here, moved to Providence, and we love it. Like, I love going out in public and seeing people that I knew in high school and that I competed against. And I love like going to PC games, and you see like everyone from all different walks of life that you've met along your path. But yeah, it's a cool experience, like being in Rhode Island, and everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
Even Melissa laughs, like when we go away, we Grand Canyon, like stuff that we've done this year, I wear a Providence like shirt or like a Rhode Island jersey or something, and I just love when people are like, we're from Rhode Island, like everyone has some type of tie, and it's crazy, but I've truly learned to appreciate it. And I'm grateful for Rhode Island. We love it here. So.
Me too. Yeah, I actually, it's funny that I wore a URI sweatshirt to when I was over in Italy.
Yeah.
And in Florence, I just crossed paths, and these people were from Rhode Island. It was like, they're like, what are the chances of that? Like, they're like, oh, we're from Rhode Island. It's like such a weird. It's cool, but like, yeah, I love the state. It's just a great state. It's like everyone knows. It's like Cheers. Everyone knows your name. It's like everyone knows what's going on.
But that's why, like, you also gotta be careful, right? Like, we don't know. I don't know. You never know who's around. I think like that's the thing that young kids have to keep in mind, right? Like, any one mistake like could put you in a category. Like, So you need to be careful when you're young, not to think that you're invisible, because with social media and everyone sees what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Like we know these kids all around the state, even though I might not know them by name, or, you see them and you know them, and you just hope that they're making the right decisions to set a good example. And, not thinking, because when you're in high school and, you're going to a state championship, like you're on another level. Like you think you're in this world, but it's like, yo, it's Rhode Island. You're going to be around here. You got to make sure like you're treating people right and you're doing the right thing,
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to leave behind a bad legacy, needless to say. Two more questions and then we'll wrap it up. One, I think you kind of captured it in what you had said recently, what sweaters that you wear. Your favorite basketball teams, college and professional.
Yeah, I mean it's got to be PC, right? And people always give me crap for it. They're like, "Well, you graduated from URI." I'm like, "URI is a lot cheaper in state."
Yeah,
Like
that makes
it's
sense.
the cheaper school. What do you want me to do?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, Fry. I would say like, yeah, I know we talked about it earlier, but like coaches, I'm like a big fan of like Frank Martin, South Carolina, like just a tough guy. Like Shaka Smart, like at Texas now, like these kids just play so hard for those coaches, and those coaches are truly teaching life lessons that you can see, some teams go through like the motions, but those teams, like Frank Martin's teams, are always prepared. And I love that,
Yeah.
But PC Friars has got to be, it's it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, they always have a good squad. Coach Cooley, they're lucky to have Coach Cooley. And the Shaka Smart thing is, I think they were like close to almost letting them go for rumors, and then now look at them, they're like number 4, number 3 in the country. It's
crazy. They're tough this year, but yeah, you can tell he's got some good leaders on the team, and he's built a good culture there.
Definitely. And then what's the last question? What's your favorite thing to do outside of basketball? Sorry.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about it before, right? Like investment in yourself is truly the most important thing. Like work to me, like working somewhere where I have room for growth and like where I need to challenge myself every day and get out of my comfort zone, right? Like the only thing that's constant in life is change. And I might have said that, but listening to podcasts, like always self-improvement, playing basketball is still something I love to do. I still play a couple days a week. I still love to compete. Fitness, like Peloton workouts, Melissa and I love and do all the time. We don't have the bike. We just do they have strength workouts on there and stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So 2020, like we ran our first half marathon, which Melissa and I do not enjoy running. But just, like something to challenge ourselves last year and give us a goal. We went to the Grand Canyon and did the rim to rim there, which is like a 24-mile. Did Melissa talk about it?
She told me about it. I was like, I can't. That's like scary to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was South Rim to North Rim. We finished it in, I think, like under 12 hours or something, which was really good. We started at 3:30 in the morning with headlamps on and all that. So just giving ourselves like things to continue challenging us. I'm really big into like personal finances. The last couple of years, like I've gotten into stocks and investments and stuff like that, which I think is super important for people to learn. Like I think we get too caught up in stereotypes and you just see like, big watches and these cars and like that's what people are, think that they should have. And like that's not the stuff that's important in life. Like it's not. Like there's a lot of other things, and then I talked a little bit about it too, like investments in relationships. Like I'm always spending time trying to be around friends, like meeting new people. I'm big on like when I'm leaving the gym, like you treat the janitor how you treat like the CEO of a company, right? Like we can make the world a better place each and every day. I truly believe this by just like saying hi to someone or asking how they're doing. Like I know it sounds like so basic and like so, but all the stuff going on in the world, like we'd be wrong to be on this podcast and not mention like, racial injustice and feminism and all this other stuff. Like it's real, but like we have instead of posting on Facebook about like, I'm not a huge social media guy. Like instead of posting about like, go out and do something, like help a woman, like open the door for someone, like carry someone's groceries. Like there's so many little things that we can do. Like posting on Facebook is not the answer. Everyone has an opinion. Like go out, go out and make a difference. Like,
Yeah.
'cause we all have the opportunity to do that. Like, I don't care what, and we all have the opportunity daily to make a difference in someone's life, big or small. Like,
It's true. It's
so
very
yeah. And the last thing, like I said, investment in yourself, investment in others, relationships. And the last thing is investment in like finances. Cause I just believe that if, I do believe in financial freedom. Like money controls a lot of people's lives. Like it's the elephant in the room, right? Like we all, we all know that it's an issue. We all know that they don't teach in schools, like maybe what they should be teaching in these areas, but like there's people out there that want to help. Like, and I'm one of those people. Like I don't want anything in return. Like if someone's got questions, reach out to me on social media. Like I'll give you my number. You can text, call me. Like that's an area where we need to start teaching the youth early on. Like I firmly believe that.
I'm right there with you. That was always been like my number one. Ever since I got into the finance world, I'm like, I never knew this. Like,
Yeah.
I
And
wish.
you learn on your own. There's no
Yeah,
like step-by-step
yeah,
process for it. But like people who make mistakes, like we need to teach others, you know?
yeah, exactly.
So, but my big thing, like in life too, it's just health, wealth, and mindset, man.
Yeah,
Like basketball, people still, when I play basketball today, I'm trying to get in my opponent's heads. Like people always say, you're always running your mouth. You're always, because I learned early on in life that I can get the best player in the game out of their head, and it's going to throw off their whole game. And
yeah,
that's life, right? Like people always say, like, I never get too high, I never get too low. Like I control what I can control. Like to me, that's my life. Like you'll never see me super excited. You'll never see me super low. Like I stay even keel because I control what I can control, and that's it.
yeah,
And I've learned that every day I'm going to go through some type of struggle, some type of challenge. Like I've accepted that every single day. I'm going to get a no, something is going to happen that I didn't expect to happen, but it's how do you come back from that always? And I think sports, basketball, everything that I've talked about today, basketball has helped me realize, all of that in some way. And the longer you play in life and the longer you stay in it, you can see how it tracks back across every path of your life.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, super inspirational, like the hard work, the grind, that everything you put into. And it's awesome that now that you're giving back to the community, and like I said, the EWG players, and or wherever you coach to as well, is very lucky to have you, have them in their lives. And you can pass down those life experiences, that work experience, that work minds, the hard work mindset, and everything that you have experienced, and help. You could definitely help someone's life out, and hopefully this podcast is like helps someone that's listening as well too, and realizes what they can do after listening to this, because this is super inspirational. I mean, you've definitely been through it, and you definitely made everything work in your life. It's been great episode.
100%, man. I greatly appreciate you having me on, and anything I can help with, I'm here for you too. So anything we can do, I feel like always, I've always hated growing up. Like you hate on little things going on in Rhode Island, hate
Yeah,
when people are trying to do something, but I'm at the point in my life where like I support anything local. Like we should all want the best for each other, and we should all do what we can to help each other out. So I love what you're doing, man. I look forward to, the growth that you have and what you continue doing. So thank you for having me on.
yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime you guys want to come on, anytime. I'm always here for you guys too, and I really appreciate the support. You and Melissa have been very super supportive to me, so it means a lot to me, and I'm always happy to hear that. All
Appreciate it, man.
right, have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. You too.
No problem.